Hi everyone, this is Balazs from RacingBrick. Today I've brought you another icon set, but don't let the looks fool you. The title was no joke, there's an actual Technic gearbox in this thing, so let me introduce you to the 10334 Retro Radio. Okay, this might be a bit of a stretch and I will ask you to stop before commenting clickbait or anything like that, but one thing is for sure. This set has the orange wave selector part that was previously only used exclusively in Technic sets with a gearbox, and here it does something very similar, so please don't underestimate this set. LEGO keeps bringing out seemingly random builds under the Icons label. We've had the Dune Ornithopter, Senna's McLaren, the Artemis SLS, Barad-dûr, and now the Retro Radio. These things don't seem to have much in common. By the way, the Artemis SLS and the Milky Way are available from today on LEGO.com. You can find a link to these sets below. I know I still owe you the review about this one, and now also this one. There have just been too many great sets released recently. Reviews will be coming soon, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them. Now back to the radio. The box has the usual black background with a bit of a retro look, and as indicated in the corner, it has a sound brick. More on that a little later. On the back of the box there are a few more angles. We can see the sound brick itself, and another neat trick, we can put our smartphone in the radio. Now let's see what's inside. The set has 906 pieces, the price is €100 or dollars, and it will be available for LEGO Insiders from the 1st of June. More details and all local prices can be found at the link above. In the box there are 8 numbered paper bags, a loose plate and the instructions. Apparently there is no sticker sheet. In the manual we get an introduction to transistor radios, the most important music source of the 20th century, and there are some examples here. On the next page we can read a few words from the designer Huang, who was mainly inspired by devices from the 60s and 70s. By the way, I also had the opportunity to talk to him about the set, so you can expect some additional information in the review. The sound brick and smartphone compatibility are described here, but we'd better check that out for ourselves later. Here's the parts list if you are interested. Now let's start building. This is the result of bag 1, nothing special so far, mainly simple stacking of plates and bricks. We start phase 2 with disassembly, and now it gets interesting. This is a Technic driving ring, usually found in gearboxes, and it goes here. This giant worm gear may look like a Technic accessory, but it's actually only ever appeared in the City, Friends and Monkey Kid sets. However, the clutch gear that goes on the cross axle is definitely Technic. The next funny little box belongs to the giant worm gear. This is the sliding element that goes on it. Another part of the worm gear has been added, and here's a fun one. The stopper for the on-off switch is a minifigure roller skate. As Huang told us, this was a crucial element that made the whole mechanism possible. Here's a mistake I made and you'd better pay attention to. This small tank gear should be facing the other way, I need to flip it. Now we add more gears, and this is how the assembly works with the worm gear. We add 2 cool printed tiles with the radio frequencies. Here's a Technic rubber piece with a short cross axle. Make sure you put it in the right axle hole of the cam piece. And here's the part I never expected to see outside of Technic sets, and it is actually its first appearance in anything else, the gear shifter, or orange wave selector as I prefer to call it. Be sure to check the correct orientation in the manual, because in this case it's crucial. It should look exactly like this compared to the position of the blue half beam. Another important step is the way we attach this assembly. The bottom beak of the orange part should slide into the driving ring, and they should move together. There are studs in every possible direction and also 2 more printed tiles. Then here comes the on-off switch knob. This gets another gear on the back, and now it's time to install the assembly. It's a little hard to see how it works, but let's give it a try. When we switch between the on and off position, the driving ring moves, and that affects the rotation of the red gear. The blue half beam pushes the rubber piece. This gives the shifting itself a realistic feel, and the clicking of the ring also contributes to this. The next tricky assembly has this connector piece with the 3 balls, which is inserted here and which I don't yet know what it is supposed to do. We add more gears that are connected to the red clutch gear and set this weird assembly with the balls in motion. This is a minifigure magic wand used for the first time in red. It serves as the needle of the radio, indicating the frequency. The strange assembly with the Optimus Prime facepiece goes here. The part was tricky to find for the designer, but it was essential to make the sound brick trigger mechanism work. This small gap is only now closed with the L-shaped plate end of phase 3. Time to cover this section with transparent plastic parts. Note the unusual joining method at this end, it works very well. The knob on the other side also has an 8-tooth gear, and when it is inserted we can see how the whole tuning mechanism is controlled. I believe these little Technic panels are new in medium nougat. I bet sooner or later they will become parts of a fine leather covered car seat, but in this case their attachment method is also noteworthy. We have our first major assembly in this light aqua shade, which is also the main color of the radio body. It's also worth seeing how it connects to the rest of the build, pretty cool. Here comes the bottom part. It's a bit tricky to find all the stud connections, but it stabilizes the sides once it's attached. I really like the top part. It has brackets facing in the opposite direction, seemingly randomly, but everything there has a purpose and fits well at the end. In phase 6, we start to build the front with the grille, which has a multi-layer design. The 2x4 tile with the LEGO logo has the same design as the dark red version seen on the pickup truck and the A-frame cabin. In the next phase, we will add the second half of the grille with many leather parts. When we arrive to the last bag, we get another surprise assembly that seems to be the support for the smartphone. We need to add the rubber band to make the functionality work. The whole front section is held in place by these 4 axles with stop. Here's the next unusual part in the set, a minifigure flipper. And what is it used for? Well, it becomes an AM/FM switch. How cool is that? It works perfectly. This section is held by clips on the 2 sides, it slides in place, very nice. The antenna is made of candle pieces, it goes in here and can be clipped in place just like the real thing. The end is near, here is one side of the handlebar connected with the Technic pin, and we also at the other side, it has a nice color scheme and it is functional as well. Finally, there's a little surprise, we need to flip the radio over and use this slot marked with the red piece to remove the back panel. The very last piece is the RacingBrick, it's new for 2024. Okay, we will wait a bit with this one, you could already see it in the Harry Potter talking sorting headset. It has screws to replace the battery, that's why it's the last element and can be removed very easily. The back cover comes back and our build is really finished. So here's our retro radio and I have to say it looks amazing. The color scheme was chosen to work well with the details like the grille, and the wood trim was also important. I like the overall look. There's a good balance between realism and LEGO aesthetics. As a life-size replica of an everyday object, it looks almost real from a distance, but when you get closer to it you can spot the studs and other details that clearly identify it as a LEGO build. So let's take a look at how it works. On one side is the on-off switch, on the other is the knob to change frequencies. Interestingly, only this one was functional first during the development, and there were many attempts with chain links like in the Pac-Man set or linear actuators from the Technic cranes before the designer decided on the new worm gear element. So this function was added first, and then he was challenged to make this one work as well, so the gearbox for the on-off switch was added. When the radio is off, we can change frequencies freely, but when we turn it on, the RacingBrick is activated and we can hear different random commercials, music, static noise and so on. I don't want to give everything away, I probably can't even play them all, I will leave it to you and discover what's included. Another special feature is the ability to put your phone inside and play music through it. The rear compartment is easily accessible and there is enough space for fairly large devices. Back to the RacingBrick for a second, do you see these curved slope elements here? They've been added to direct the sound towards the grille, it's a nice attention to detail. The opening is 21 studs wide, which is 168mm, and 11 studs high, which is 88mm, so your iPhone 15 Pro Max will also fit inside. As the ability to house a phone was part of the original design idea, all the internals had to be arranged in a tricky way to leave as much free space here as possible. The grille is also as open as possible to let the sound through. Let's try it out. Hey, play some music. Sorry folks, I have to mute it for copyright reasons. I listened to this one recently. Here's some royalty-free audio instead. It all depends on the quality of your phone of course, but it works, and since you can use voice control, the radio can be closed. Also, we can move the antenna, and of course the handle is also functional and everything looks good. Here is my daughter's Bluetooth radio for comparison. I would say that the Lego version can blend in well in a room. So let's sum it up. I think this set is an exceptional mix of form and function. It looks great, it is surprisingly complex and yet not that hard to build, at least if you've seen a Technic set or two before. There were visible attempts to simplify this building phase by splitting the mechanical sections into sub-builds and also asking to be tested during the process, but it might still be a bit challenging for some inexperienced builders. When I look for similar Lego sets, the typewriter or the Polaroid camera come to mind, sets that not only look good, but also hide some functions within them. This one is not a direct copy of a real product, but that gave the designer some creative freedom. I can't emphasize enough how much I love the elegant functionality and bold use of Technic elements in an icon set, and hope to see more similar products from the designer in the future. Even the price is good, €100 or dollars as RRP means that it will certainly be even lower in retail. For comparison, the Harry Potter sorting hat with the same sun brick and price tag has almost half the parts. Any negative aspects? Well, I have to be really picky to find anything. You have to move the antenna carefully as the connection isn't as secure here, and the hard click when the sun brick is engaged might bother some people as it's not part of the original experience. I asked Huang about this by the way. They tested a few different solutions with damping, but in the end they settled on the solution that was the most reliable in testing. I would also have liked to find a light brick here, but in order not to break the budget, the team seemed to choose printed parts instead, which is also fine. So folks, when I first saw the retro radio, I wasn't really interested, but I was completely wrong. It's a great set with ingenious solutions inside, a very nice build experience, cool features, a nice display piece at the end, and even the price is good. For me, it's the biggest surprise of the year, and I highly recommend it to anyone who likes interesting, elegant, and clever building solutions. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe with notifications because there will be more exciting Lego videos coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.